The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience presented by DraftKings 2020 Week 7 Waiver Wire Pickup Rankings at each position. Week 6 NFL injury report, and looking forward, plus maybe some buy lows. Not so much some sell highs, but a buy low I have in store for you who you should be trading for right now. Always hit the time code for the video and smash the like button to the video. If you smash the like button to the video and subscribe to Mayo Media Network, and let's say you have a trade question or any sort of fantasy related question as it pertains to not rankings, because we're going to be doing the ranking show on Tuesday as the week goes on, but if it's a roster question, an ad drop, a trade question, stick those into the comment section of the video on YouTube, and I'll get around to answering those on Tuesday morning. So you have an entire day to go fill up your questions. I'm going to try to be more responsive in the YouTube comment section. Apparently it helps the algorithm and searchability. So hey, who am I to say no to the algorithm? The algorithm dictates all. If you're listening to the audio podcast, please rate 5 stars. Leave a review too if you're feeling generous about that. The Pat Mayo Experience Listeners League for DraftKings for Week 7 is already available. The link is in the description of this video. There's 3,000 spots this week. Last week there was 2,500 and it filled by Wednesday. So I suggest you go get your spot right now. Just go reserve your entry. 3 max entry, $15 to play, no rake, flat payouts. It is the single best tournament you can play on DraftKings every single week. You got $15 to play on DraftKings. This is the tournament to do it in. Because even if you min cash, you get at least double your money. It's sustainable in that regard. So highly suggest you go do it if you're checking out DraftKings for the first time. It's a great tournament to go enter because losers like me play it who lose almost every single week. Although not last week. Week 6, very good on DraftKings. Not going to lie to you. Both golf and football-wise, viewers of the show between golf and football, I saw 4 5-figure cashes out there, close to $100,000 worth of winnings on DraftKings alone. That's not including all of the golf betting that people ended up winning on as well. So congratulations to everyone out there who had their gigantic scores this week. I think the highest one was $50,000 first place. There was a $30,000, there was a $17,500, a $12,000. So viewers of the show, nice to see you cashing, and always hit me up with that sort of information. I get very excited about those sorts of things. But we're not here to talk about that. We'll talk about DraftKings later on in the week. Before we jump into the waiver wire and the injury and the snap share, you can find all of this information in written form on dkplaybook.com in my waiver wire article, which gets updated at the beginning of every morning, Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening, if there's new news. Like, I don't know what the Miles Sanders injury news is as of this moment. If it changes, well, spoiler alert, Boston Scott is not going to be the number 1 running back pickup if Miles Sanders is okay to play, because that wouldn't make any sense. But at the moment, it looks like Miles Sanders is going to miss at least a little bit of time, so Boston Scott remains at number 1, at least through the course of doing this show. I'll try to update it again with Sealy if information changes at the beginning of the ranking show, but if nothing changes, we'll just hop right into the rankings. Also, free tools at ftndaily.com and ftnfantasy.com. I've put the free tools in the description of the video and podcast. Highly suggest you go check them out. There's a free air yards tool, a free opportunity tool, a free red zone tool. If put it this way. You know how when you click on sites and you're going to be like, oh, I need to find the red zone rushing, and I need to find this, and I need to find this. And then you have like 8 separate tabs open at the top of your screen because you need to use 6 different sites to find the information that you need. No more. ftndaily.com has all of that stuff, all of the tools that you need to stay in one place. Just that efficiency alone is fantastic. So there's free tools, there are premium tools. I highly suggest you go check out the free tools. The premium tools are excellent as well. It has the projections, the optimizer, wide receiver, and cornerback matchups. If you use code MAYO, you get yourself a discount on everything. The links to those are also in the description. But like I said, just check out the free tools. Those could be good enough for all that you need right now. And then, if you want to up your game, get those premium tools. But again, ftndaily.com, check out the free tools for NFL to be doing your research. Running backs for Week 7 in the waiver wire pickup realm. Boston Scott is number 1. Joshua Kelly fell below the threshold after a bad performance against the Saints and a bye week. That combination dropped him below 60% ownership. All these guys are 60% owned and below. That's the threshold for this. He's number 2. Latavius Murray, ditto with the Saints on bye. He fell below. Latavius Murray needs to be owned because if Alvin Kamara gets hurt, you have a top 5 running back on your hands. Ask everyone who currently owns Mike Davis. It's fantastic. I'm not going to lie to you. So Latavius Murray is the best of those running backs who's currently available. Tony Pollard would be the other one, but we know the role that Latavius will play. We've seen it before. We know how good he can be in this offense. So Latavius, number 3, Justin Jackson, number 4, who actually outsnapped Joshua Kelly in the Monday night game when they played the Saints. But I still have love in my heart for Josh Kelly with the way that this could end up shaping up. So I think that both are capable pickups, not super strong starts because you don't know who's going to play more, but LaMichael Pirine is number 5 on the Jets. Adrian Peterson, J.D. McKissick, my guy, Rex Burkhead, Damian Harris, and Cam Akers, he of basically 0 snaps in the Sunday night affair, is number 10. After that, you just have a lot of like the backups or the primary handcuffs, Nyheim Hines, Tony Pollard, Gio Bernard, Zach Moss. Zach Moss is an interesting situation solely because he's currently going to be playing in the Monday evening game. If you play in one of those leagues, like Yahoo leagues are basically the best example of this, where you can still make a roster move if the game hasn't been played yet. I would go pick up Zach Moss right now. He's returning, at least expected to return, against the Kansas City Chiefs in the Monday night game. If Devin Singletary gets hurt, all of a sudden you have a starting running back on your hands, and it didn't cost you anything. If Singletary gets hurt and you wait, you're going to be paying like $30 in fab for him tomorrow, so you might as well make this move if you have someone to drop on your roster. Same for the Kansas City defense, by the way. If the Kansas City defense is available in your league right now, I would suggest going to pick them up, as you'll want them for streaming purposes the next 2 weeks against Denver and the Jets, a team that can really attack the quarterback that you would expect to be facing a lot of pass attempts. They're my number 1 pickup. I don't want to do too much spoiler alert, but since we're talking about this Monday night move anyway, that is one that you can go attack right now. Go get the Kansas City Chiefs defense to start the next 2 weeks in your lineup, if you're not already starting them tonight. Gus Edwards, I have at number 15. That would move up if we know more about this Mark Ingram injury. The problem is, we don't know how serious the injury is for Mark Ingram, for one. 2, the Ravens are on bye, so he has 2 weeks to recover, so we're definitely not going to know. And it's not like we're going to be getting updates throughout the week. You can use the spec play on Gus Edwards, but the other issue becomes, even if Ingram sits, you have Edwards, you still have Dobbins, plus Lamar running the ball a lot as well. It would be more concentrated, but I can't guarantee that Gus gets over 50% of the workload. You'd hope so, you'd expect so, but it's a lot like that Chargers situation as well, where you're just not going to know. A decent spec pickup for 2 weeks from now, but if Ingram comes back, you're just in a situation where you can't use any of them. So that's not great. That's why he's down on this list. Jamal Williams, Royce Freeman, and Carlos Hyde are down there as well. Royce Freeman played a lot with Phillip Lindsay on the field, which was surprising. When we talk about the snap shares, we'll take a look at that. But at the same time, he was the only running back on the Broncos to receive a target against the Patriots, which seemed kind of strange. I know he had been getting some of the receiving work over Phillip Lindsay a year ago, although when you think about who's a better pass catcher, it's Phillip Lindsay. It's just a really bizarre situation. Melvin Gordon missed this game with the strep throat. He also got that DUI last week, and as soon as that ends up coming through, he's going to be instantly suspended from the league. So at some point, you're going to be without Melvin Gordon just based on the suspension for 2 to 3 games. So Royce Freeman becomes a potential viable option should anything happen to Lindsay, who was already dealing with the foot problem and missed games earlier this year, that all of a sudden he could just be a running back one. Just go look at who started at running back yesterday and who you may have played in your fantasy lineups. Like, I don't want to play these guys. No one wants to play these guys. However, just getting someone who touches the ball 15 times is like free money at the running back position in some of these weeks where there are 4 teams on bye, and we're going to be seeing that over and over. And like with these COVID delays, where if a game gets pushed, all of a sudden you're shit out of luck with 2 guys that you really wanted to start. It's like, oh, great, and now I have no one. Maybe at that point, if you have Royce Freeman at the back end of your roster, all of a sudden you can like play him. It would suck, but at least it's a warm body that you can throw into your lineup. Overall, the injuries, Joe Mixon injured his foot but returned to the game, so that was good news on that front. Miles Sanders, like I mentioned, is dealing with a knee problem he sustained on that long run when he ended up fumbling. That's why I have Boston Scott at number 1 currently. Corey Clement would also become like a relatively deeper league pickup because I know that he's widely available. Boston Scott may still be owned in a lot of circumstances. It's not like Boston Scott is a smash when you pick him up. He's not like a top 10 running back, but he is someone you can play. That's why he would be number 1 for this week. Other than that, Raheem Mostert injured his ankle once again in it was a knee at first to miss time. Now it's an ankle in the Sunday night game. He tried to come back in. That didn't work out too well. So we'll see what his status is moving forward into week 7. Jarek is above the threshold, so you can't just go randomly pick him up. He could be available if people dropped him in some leagues over the weekend, though, but that would be the move. But Tevin Coleman is also not necessarily expected to return in week 7, but I believe he is eligible to return from the injured reserve list. So we'll see where his status is during the week. Mostert could be fine. Haven't heard anything more about his status yet. Once we do, I will update the column. Mark Ingram, ankle, exited the game. Ravens are on bye. Melvin Gordon, strep throat, didn't play. Plus, he has those DUI issues. Leonard Fournette didn't play. Delvin Cook, Austin Eckler, Nick Chubb, Sony Michel. Christian McCaffrey also not in uniform. They played the Saints this week. He could return. He is eligible to return off injured reserve. However, it's still looking like he is doubtful. He's going to hit the week 6 of that 4 to 6 week injury. So maybe one more week of Mike Davis as we end up going through everything. I mean, that would be a welcome sight to daily fantasy players, to anyone who picked up Mike Davis, because he's been a revelation. Even in a shitty game yesterday, he still ended up with like 14 fantasy points. So that's a pretty good floor if you're Mike Davis at this point in a really tough matchup. We look at the snap shares at running back for the week. I mentioned Mike Davis. Guess who played the highest volume of snaps for his team? 92% of offensive snaps. Mike Davis was on the field. That was a lot more than number 2. From the same game, David Montgomery, 84% of the snaps. Montgomery sucks, but he gets so much volume that you almost have to play him every single week. Like, if you were to do a re-ranking of the running backs for the rest of the season, he'd be like running back 14 based on volume, assuming he doesn't get hurt. But it doesn't look like they have any interest in bringing in anyone to actually come in and take his job. Mike Davis is a really interesting proposition in terms of a buy low and sell high, because obviously his viability is tied to the health of Christian McCaffrey. Once McCaffrey comes back, I don't envision this being a split. I envision it going back to the way that it was. Maybe McCaffrey doesn't play 99% of snaps like he used to, but maybe he plays 85, which would still, as of last week, make him the highest volume running back in all the league. So with Davis, people will be looking to get rid of him for basically nothing, or potentially even dropping him. But we know, almost like Latavius Murray, what his role is going to be if there is no Christian McCaffrey, that he's a top 5 running back in fantasy football if Christian McCaffrey doesn't exist. So if you can get him for essentially nothing after this week, if we know that McCaffrey is coming back, I would suggest trying to get him on your team. He's the best handcuff in football. That the owner will have felt like he got what he needed out of Mike Davis in his 6-week run, because it's been really good. If you played him every week, you're probably winning your fantasy matchups. That if you can get him for like a wide receiver 4 or running back, like a JD McKissick type, because he actually gets points if this guy is in desperate need of a running back, especially if he didn't have Christian McCaffrey, that it's a nice bench asset to have. And I would imagine some people will drop him. You can get him for almost nothing. That if you have the bench room to go get Mike Davis, it won't cost you anything at all, and could turn out to be a league winner should anything happen to Christian McCaffrey again, especially near the fantasy playoffs. Then all of a sudden you just inherit a top 5 running back. That's what you want to be doing. It's the same logic behind Latavius Murray. So Mike Davis, David Montgomery, and David Johnson, the only 3 players to play more than 80% of the running back snaps on their team. After that, Devonta Freeman, Myles Gaskin, that bitch Carol Gaskin, played 70% of the snaps. James Robinson, James Conner, Phillip Lindsay. Shockingly enough, Derrick Henry only played 60% of the Titans' offensive snaps, which is mind-blowing when you think about the sort of production that he put up. After him, if you're looking for a handcuff for Derrick Henry, with Evans going on injured reserve, Jeremy McNichols did play almost 40% of the snaps. He's no Derrick Henry, but he enters, I'll probably add him to the waiver wire pickup list as well, like akin to the Tony Pollards and Gio Bernard. Should anything happen to Derrick Henry, that's your guy. Now, we just saw the bad side of this situation with Alexander Mattison. Cook goes out. Alexander Mattison only plays 46% of the snaps. Amir Abdullah plays 28%. Mike Boone plays 10%. I have to think a lot of that was game flow dictated, though. When Kirk Cousins is throwing 3 picks in the first half and you get down by so much, you need to go with your heavy spread. They were just playing 5 wide at some point, or 2 tight ends and 3 wide, and no running backs in the backfield. It seemed like a very bad game script for Alexander Mattison. Obviously, I had him overranked. Big mistake on my part. But if the Vikings just jump up 7-0 in that game, it could be an entirely different story. You don't expect the Falcons just to go ham all of a sudden after 5 weeks. Maybe you did. Tim Andercuss locked him in as a super lock of the week, so shout out to him. We all hit our super locks this week. I think it's the first time all year that's actually happened. So Madison's going to be fine, but I will be hesitant to ranking him inside the top 5. Again, I still think that he would be a top 10 option if Cook continues to miss time. However, Minnesota goes on bye week this week, and I would expect Dalvin Cook to return coming out of bye week, sending Madison back to your fantasy bench and back to the real life bench where he's playing 20% of snaps once again every single week. Moving on to wide receiver, we have T. Higgins. He has been my number 1 wide receiver pickup for the past 3 weeks. He continues to be number 1. He's not even 50% owned in leagues. I don't understand this whatsoever. I guess it's like because Tyler Boyd is there and AJ Green is there and people maybe don't trust Joe Burrow at all. But at the same time, like this guy is just producing over and over and over every single week. Let me pull up some T. Higgins stats here for you. Let's see. T. Higgins, 3 straight games of going over 60 yards receiving. He has at least 6 targets in every game this season. And last week, he averaged over 20 yards per catch. He is probably the best receiver on Cincinnati at this point, and he is who they use in the red zone. He is a huge body. Burrow trusts him in the red zone, although he didn't convert in week 6 against the Colts. He kept getting looks every time, and he got stopped on the 1-yard line on a huge catch as well. That it's coming for him. I mean, the last time that he wasn't the number 1 waiver wire pickup at wide receiver, Justin Jefferson was. Then he immediately went in and got picked up, and he's been fantastic. And T. Higgins continues to produce every single week, yet no one seems to want him. It's really bizarre in that regard. So I would say go and pick him up. Preston Williams, I have at number 2. Devontae Parker got injured, although Miami is going on bye. You'll have to monitor that going forward. It's a groin injury for Devontae Parker. So again, almost like the Mark Ingram situation, we need to figure out what his status is going to be moving forward. But in a lot of these soft matchups that Preston Williams continues to do pretty good work. If it wasn't against the Bills and Patriots where they put Tre'Davious White and Stephen Gilmore on him, he's been good in all the other games since. You don't expect the Dolphins to continue to roll like this every single week, but for the time being, Preston Williams is looking pretty good. Christian Kirk playing in the Monday night game, still widely available. Mike Williams coming back from bye. Hopefully he's okay. Don't know the injury status of Keenan Allen yet either, but Mike Williams seems to be developing a rapport with Justin Herbert. Got to like him. Travis Fulgham at number 5. You can expect, at least probably, Deshaun Jackson to return for the Eagles next week. Maybe even Alshon Jeffrey as well, although it's conditioning with him at this point because he hasn't done anything all year long. But it looks like Fulgham is here to stay. He's past Greg Ward, that as the Eagles either number 1 or number 2. Not that that's saying much at this point, but it does seem like you should go and pick him up. He is someone as a wide receiver 3-4 hybrid, someone just to have on the back end of your bench that you can play because the target share has been there. We'll see how that changes once the other guys come back, but here we are. Keelan Cole. DJ Chark is a decent buy low after seeing like 15 targets and not converting on anything in week 6, but it's nice to see that he's healthy coming off that ankle injury. Keelan Cole, 100 yards or a touchdown in 4 of 6 games so far this season, at least 5 targets in all 6 games so far for the Jags. There's the want to go to Shenault. He's a rookie. He plays running back. He's a huge physical presence. But Keelan Cole's actually the one putting up fantasy points for the Jags right now. I think they're both like decent pickups, but Cole I prefer. He's number 6. Marquez Valdez-Scantling at number 7. At number 8, Zach Pascal. Pittman and Paris Campbell could eventually return. Not sure when that's exactly going to happen, but with Indianapolis going into their bye week, they could be back after that. But if not, Zach Pascal is really the only option because T.Y. looks washed. I know he had a touchdown called back, but that would have been the first thing he's done all season. Pascal at least does stuff every single week. Again, these are not go must adds. The only must adds I think at receiver is T. Higgins. Everyone else is just kind of a bench filler guy that you can put into your flex, wide receiver 3 if you're dealing with injuries or bye week, that kind of thing. So to recap, Higgins, Preston Williams, Christian Kirk, Mike Williams, Fulgham, Cole, Marcus Valdez-Scantling, Zach Pascal, Henry Ruggs, me, Cole, Hardman. Eventually Sammy Watkins will come back, and you always had that DeMarcus Robinson chip in there too. After that, if you're looking in deeper leagues, Tim Patrick, Shenault, Gage, N'Keal Harry with his big goose egg. Thanks, Harry, for showing up for me. Fucking Harry. Ayuk, Traquan, Cole Beasley, Gabriel Davis, Hunter Renfrow, and Darnell Mooney. Injuries at wide receiver for the week. Devontae Parker exited the game. Antonio Gandy-Golden with a hamstring injury also exited the game, opening up more opportunity for Dontrell Inman. They do play the Cowboys next week. That's kind of nice. CJ Board in a very scary situation on the Giants, left with what they're calling a concussion. I would not expect to see him for a while. Curtis Samuel did not play with a knee injury. That was a late scratch before the Carolina game. Keenan Allen was on bye week last week, but was injured in the Monday night game against the Saints before that, as was Mike Williams on the very last play of the game with a hamstring injury, so monitor their status. There are no locks to play this week for the Chargers, although I would expect them to be back. Deontay Johnson didn't play. Sammy Watkins didn't play. Chris Hogan has gone to the injured reserve. Corey Davis still on the COVID-19 list. He should be able to come back this week if he's feeling better. Shout out, Corey. Hope you are feeling better. Alan Lazard still on injured reserve. Brian Edwards, Deshaun Jackson, Sterling Shepard, Denzel Mimsey, and Elshon Jeffrey could all return in week 7, so you'll have to monitor their status as the week goes along. Tight end, I still have Dalton Schultz as the top tight end pickup for the moment. I'm not sure what his rapport with Andy Dalton is going to be. Again, that's a wait and see what happens in the Monday night game for me if he's still involved in this offense like he was with Dak Prescott. But Andy Dalton, once upon a time, used to love throwing to his tight end. If there was better options, I would bump him down from number 1. But there's really not. Schultz, Jimmy Graham, Anthony Ferkster, if Jonnu misses time. Not sure if Jonnu's going to miss time or not. He's already questionable for next Sunday's game against the Steelers. We'll see where his ankle develops over the week. But if Jonnu misses the game, you can probably play Ferkster, even in a tough matchup. Logan Thomas at number 4. Darren Fells continues to be viable if Jordan Akins misses time. If Akins plays, you probably don't want Fells. Eric Ebron. I have Trey Burton at 7 and Mo Alley-Cox down at 8. Burton has been out. He scored 2 touchdowns, but before that, he had been running more routes and playing more snaps than Mo Alley-Cox, who'd been dealing with an injury, missed yesterday's game. The Colts go on bye week, so by the time they come back, Cox is probably back, and then it's just a big wrench into the situation. Jack Doyle even got a touchdown yesterday too. And then I'm going to fuck up this name, I'm not going to lie to you. Number 9, Albert Aquigubum, the guy that filled in for Noah Fant. Let's just call him that. He was the college teammate of Drew Lock, saw 5 targets and a few end zone shots, deep down field work, high ADOT for him against the Patriots in a game where they weren't really passing as much. Next week, they played the Chiefs in a game where they probably will have to pass a lot. If Fant misses time again, he could be a decent streaming plug-and-play option as we go forward. I still like Noah Fant, but I like him more when he plays and is not dealing with his injuries. So the overall injuries, Jonnu left the game with an ankle injury, questionable. Zach Ertz left with an ankle injury. He's questionable for week 7. Tyler Eifert for the 2nd consecutive game left for the Jags with a neck injury. They might shut him down for a bit. So not that you were playing him anyway, but that makes James O'Shaughnessy, the Irish assassin, always a fun DraftKings play when Tyler Eifert doesn't play. Mo Alley-Cox didn't play. Dawson Knox not playing in the Monday night game against the Chiefs for the Bills. Noah Fant didn't play. Akins didn't play. And Dallas Goedert, still no word yet on when his return is going to be. Although, even with a high ankle sprain, you have to think it's imminent at some point. He's been out 3 weeks already, or 3.5 weeks already. So the next 2 weeks or so, you can probably get Dallas Goedert back into your lineup. Streaming quarterbacks for week 7. I have Matthew Stafford at number 1 against the Falcons. Thank you to all of you who basically yelled at me on Twitter in the first half for Kirk Cousins. Hey, guess what? He scored 30 points. You realize that they play 2 halves in football. I'm throwing that out there in case you didn't know how they actually time the games and how much people get to play. Sometimes it's the Jameis Winston effect. Throwing a bunch of picks early in a game only creates a very positive game script for yourself where the defense is barely even trying at that point. Leads to a lot of yardage and some really cheap touchdowns. But if the Falcons can continue to roll their offense at home like they did last week, then Matthew Stafford should have to be throwing this entire time. So that's a great streamer. He was dropped in a lot of spots. Justin Herbert, this is assuming that both of the main receivers in Allen and Williams are returning. They get the Jags at home. Teddy B is at home against the New Orleans Saints. I like Teddy B in a revenge game, and just that passing attack looks pretty good. Gardner Minshew at the Chargers. The Chargers giving up the 4th most fantasy points to quarterbacks right now. That's another tool for free that you can find on ftndaily.com is the points per position against tool. It's free to use. Just go up to tools at the top and boom, you'll find it there. Andy Dalton at the Washington football team. Again, I want to assess how he actually plays in his first full start against the Cardinals. He can move up that list or potentially down. Then you have Drew Lock against the Chiefs. Where I like the Chiefs defense, that doesn't even make a streamer immune to be playing against them. Just it's a lot of passing volume. That's what I'm looking for from a streaming quarterback. quarterback, a guy that's going to be, I mean, Drew Lock almost threw them out of that game against the Patriots up. Imagine when he's down, the sort of risk that he'll take downfield. So I kind of like that a little bit. Streaming defenses for week 7, we have the Kansas City Chiefs at the Denver Broncos. They're number 1 and still free to pick up on Yahoo if you have a bench spot available, if your league settings reward that. The Saints against the Panthers at home. The Browns against the Bengals. Washington against Dallas. Dallas against Washington. Philly against the Giants, and Giants against Philly. It turns out that all of these NFC East teams are just turnover machines. Danny Fums is good for at least one fum a game or an interception at probably the most critical opportunity. So in a game where if Philly can jump out, big ask from Philly at this point, and you get Daniel Jones throwing like 30 plus times, you are in a good situation for your defense moving forward. So just, the NFC East is where you want to be targeting, whether they're playing each other or playing other teams, just stream against them, and it leads to a lot of fantasy points. Even when Dallas puts up a shit ton of points, they still allow the opposing DST to be pretty good against them, which is mind-blowing. And Washington's defense, pretty good. Not going to lie to you. So yes, that will do it, except for my buy low. I had high hopes for Terry McLaurin against the New York Giants just because his matchups have been so brutal. And even on Bradbury had the pick on a really horrendously underthrown ball. You can call it like a shadow coverage on McLaurin, or you can call him like 5 yards away from McLaurin and just jump the route. It was just such a bad pass from Kyle Allen. Still, in what is a perceived bad matchup against Bradbury, in a lockdown shadow corner, he still put up 7 catches on 12 targets. His string of terrible matchups are over for the first time. He gets the Cowboys next week. McLaurin is being severely undervalued, whether it's air yards, whether it's deep passes. I know the quarterback situation isn't good no matter who starts, but at least his string of horrible matchups are over. Every week this season, it's been a bad matchup for him. He's gone up against Slay, Bradbury, and Ramsey. Like, that's not great if you're trying to put up elite fantasy numbers. But you know what is elite? His continued volume. All these double-digit targets, the high ADOT, and they do even try to get him in on bubble screens as well, and wide receiver screens. Just try to get the ball into his hands. That the explosion's coming for Terry McLaurin, and now is his value is never going to be lower, just because the person who has Terry McLaurin on their team is probably not doing well right now. So you can probably find you don't need to give up nothing for him. You can give up something for Terry McLaurin. I still think that he's a fringe wide receiver 1 the rest of the season. The underlying numbers and expected points show that with him. The volume shows that, and the overall skill that we saw last season shows that. And the fact that he was able to do it last year with crappy quarterback play, and it's not like he's been so horrendous he's killing your team. He's putting up like 13, 14, 15 points a week just off crappy volume alone. Just wait until the good matchups come. Explosion time for my guy, scoring McLaurin. Not doing too much scoring these days. He's like a 20-year-old Pat Mayo. He needs to be more like 26-year-old Pat Mayo, getting into that end zone. So that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience Week 7 Waiver Wire Pickups. This is when you can expect the show for Waiver Wire every single week now on Monday afternoons. That way I just have more information. It seems to be more useful than trying to record it really early on Monday or late on Sunday. And the fact that no one does their Waiver Wire Pickups on Monday morning anyway, just it seems like a decent thing. The column will start coming out on Monday mornings as well. Just makes life easier on myself. So that's up on dkplaybook.com right now. It's also in the description, as is the link to the Pat Mayo Experience Listeners League link on DraftKings. And you can find all those free tools at ftndaily.com. If you want to use the premium tools, use code Mayo. Get yourself a discount. I believe for today, on Monday, it's still 20% off. I think it goes down to 15 starting tomorrow. So if you really want to capitalize, get the optimizer, get the projections, all the premium stuff, plus the cheat sheets and everything, code Mayo at ftndaily.com. We'll get that for you right now, as it will for the Start Sit tool on ftnfantasy.com. The shared sites, the shared tools. That's what you want to get into. Plus, if you have a question about a trade, about an ad drop, put it in the comment section. I will get to those on Tuesday morning. Remember to smash the like and leave an audio review as well. I'll be back on Tuesday with Jake Seeley, breaking down all of the rankings for the week, the start sits. Then Wednesday with Feinberg, with Cust, making our picks for the week. Thank you all for watching. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!